switched over to your rubric here. Here we go. All right. I think we're ready when you're ready.
All right. Was that the bite of 87? No, Markiplier, it was not. In fact, this was the bite of 83, a catalyst event for all of the FNAF events in the lore. For a little bit of background information, here we meet William Afton and Henry Emily, two business partners that are set on entertaining children with their business, Fredbear's Family Diner. William Afton has 3 children, a daughter Elizabeth, an older son Michael, and a younger son Evan, where Henry Emily only has one daughter Charlotte. At the beginning of the franchise, they open up Fredbear's Family Diner in the early 70s. The animatronics are used with a new technology that is known with a spring lock system. This spring lock system allows the animatronics to function as an animatronic as well as be worn as a costume to interact with children around. Now, because the business was going so well, they created a new franchise called Fazbear Entertainment and Afton Robotics, which allowed them to tinker with new animatronics. So, at the actual event of the Bite of 83, Afton Robotics had started creating new animatronics, being Freddy, Chica, Bonnie, and Foxy, which were apparent at a sister location. Now, for some reason, Evan was absolutely terrified of these animatronics, and his father was not very present in his life, as he was very busy working on the animatronics. So he often looked over him using a nanny cam in a Fredbear plush. Now, his older brother was often in charge of taking care of his younger brother, which made him bitter because he felt like it was not his job. So he tormented his brother with this Foxy Max because he knew he was terrified. So on his birthday, the Bite of 83, they decided to pull a little prank and put Evan's head in Fredbear's animatronic. The screaming and the crying and the kicking caused Fredbear to bite down on Evan's head, putting him into a coma. Now, what happens here is at the same time, William Afton is actually working on prototypes of the Funtime animatronics seen in the sister location. So this brings us to FNAF 4. FNAF 4 is a nightmarish version of the FNAF games, which takes place in the Afton household, which is reflective of Evan's nightmares, his nightmares and experiences with the animatronics. However, unfortunately, Evan does not survive his coma and he passes away. Now, this brings us to William Afton feeling the need to, quote-unquote, put him back together. He was going to save him. He puts Evan, or pieces of Evan, in Golden Fredbear, aka Golden Freddy. Now, for some means of magic, his soul seems to inhabit Golden Freddy. Now, this leads William Afton to think of new, he's curious. Why does this happen? So he begins to experiment and creates Circus Baby. And this is at Circus Baby's Pizza World. Now, the sole intent of Circus Baby is to isolate a soul child and to grab the child and bring it into her chest cavity, killing the child to see if that child would possess the animatronic. However, his only daughter, Elizabeth, is obsessed with Circus Baby, and despite all of the warnings, she gets too close and she is killed and subsequently possesses Circus Baby. Circus Baby's Pizza World is then closed down 2 days after opening due to gas leaks. Now, Henry Emily, the CEO of the company, finds this suspicious. 2 missing children and a brand new state-of-the-art location closing down in 2 days. Something wasn't right. So he kicks William Afton out of the business. Now, in fear of William's retaliation, he creates Marionette, known as the Puppet, whose sole purpose is to protect Charlotte, his only daughter. Now, in the minigame, we see Midnight Motorist in one of the FNAF games. William Afton travels to a restaurant known as Junior's, which is known as a sister location franchise to the Fazbear Entertainment. Now, his daughter, Charlie, for some reason, gets locked out due to a bullying incident, and the Marionette cannot reach her. In his rage, William Afton kills Charlotte and leaves her dead in an alleyway without the Marionette to protect her. As from the words of Wendigoon, William decides to take from Henry what he accidentally took from himself in his rage. This takes place at Junior's, and because now of another dead child, the location closes. Which brings us to FNAF 2. Now, Junior's gets shut down due to Charlie's death, but it reopens a few years later as Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, where you play as Jeremy Fitzgerald, a security guard. Now, Henry is not taking any more risks. He creates the toy animatronics, which have a built-in security system which allows them to scan for known criminals. Now, because they're scanning for known criminals, they believe Jeremy Fitzgerald is William Afton. Now, during the events of FNAF 2, William sneaks in and kills 5 children. So an investigation goes on about 5 missing children, which are stuffed into the suits. At the end of the week, the bite of 87 occurs, which is Jeremy Fitzgerald, his frontal lobe getting bit out, and Michael Afton works the 7th night under an alias, which brings us to finally the original game, where you play as Mike Schmidt, and he's trying to find out and right his father's wrongs. However, the children who possess the animatronics at night attack the night guard because they believe it's William. William sneaks in multiple nights and slowly disassembles these original animatronics and uses these animatronics in the Fun Time animatronics in the underground holding facility. Eventually, he fully destroys the animatronics, thinking he's finally finished them. However, the souls are freed and track William and attack William, so he hides in the Spring Bonnie suit. However, the springs, which were mentioned by Phone Guy to be unstable around water, spring lock on him, and he gets spring trapped and bleeds to death, subsequently leading him to possess Springtrap, where he's walled off for 30 years by Henry. Which brings us to the sister location. Michael goes down to the underground animatronic holding facility held by Fazbear Entertainment to find out what his father has been up to. He finds the Fun Time animatronics and Circus Baby, who create an amalgamation of all the animatronics known as Ennard, where they scoop Michael and wear Michael's skin to escape. Now, however, Michael's body rejects Ennard eventually, and they're done to live in the sewers, where they reject Circus Baby, and she rebuilds herself as Scrap Baby, and Ennard rebuilds itself as Molten Freddy. 30 years later, all the events of FNAF are kind of seen as folklore, so they open up this new franchise called Fazbear Frights, which is a horror attraction based around the events of Five Nights at Freddy's. Now, the Phone Guy says that he found a fully recovered animatronic, which was Springtrap. So Michael, of course, has to get a job here. So Michael, going through all the nights, eventually decides to burn down Fazbear Frights, but was unsuccessful in killing his father. So now Springtrap has escaped. So Henry, realizing that the Marionette, Scrap Baby, and Molten Freddy and Springtrap are all on the loose, creates one last franchise known as Freddy's Fazbear's Pizza Shop to lure all the wandering animatronics to the restaurant where they are scavenged. However, he knows that his daughter, the Marionette, will not be so quick to come, so he creates Lefty for the sole purpose of capturing the puppet. Henry, after trapping all of the animatronics, sets the building on fire, eventually and finally releasing the souls of the damned children who were cursed to these animatronics. William is tortured in a purgatory by his own creation, by his own son Evan, constantly being killed by his own creations until finally he is laid to rest 50 years later. And as a last little sentence, I implore you to think, was William Afton truly a bad guy, or was he a man who was lost in his own descent and madness from the loss of his 2 children and the obsession of his own creations? Thank you.